Joel, maybe get some of your thoughts on what makes Thrawn such an iconic character.
Really blue, double dee double die, double dee double die, double dee double die. I'm kidding. I had to do that. I had to do that at least once. Well,
You
actually,
earned it.
no. His design is that he sort of is that sort of weird mix of a great Star Wars character, kind of great archetype, and great design.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a super smart Imperial leader, who's can outwit his enemies with his mind and through strategy, but he's also blue. He's got red eyes and a cool looking white uniform. So it's like just this the it like when you see him in the original Heir of the Empire cover, it's like that image is just striking. It's like, oh dang, who's this guy? Um, but he also has kind of the honor of being the most popular and the first post Return of the Jedi villain in an era when we never thought we would get a sequel trilogy, and he's just so unique.
Mm-hmm.
He's very different. He's not just another dark sider. He's not Vader the Emperor. He is, and that'd be hard because Vader and the Emperor are kind of the ultimate evils. Like where do you
Right.
go from there for to face Luke Skywalker? And then here comes this military officer who has no powers. He has no, all he has is his brain, his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what makes him interesting is he's a science fiction villain in Star Wars, and kind of just seeing him navigate a universe where there is divine intervention. There is kind of
It's true.
the good guys wins because
Yeah.
they have their friends, and they have the hard cards, and their friends are their power kind of thing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
here's the Thrawn, who's kind of more traditional military tactics. I'm going to outthink and outplan, out strategize my enemies. So I think that's why in a lot of ways Thrawn is iconic, and I think he got a lot of development afterwards, but he was iconic just after his trilogy, and then he
Mm-hmm. That's
dies.
true.
He appeared and then he died,
Spoiler
but
alert
he's
for novels that came out about what 20 years ago,
yeah,
30 years ago,
but
coming up. Yeah, go ahead.
he kind of left this impact, and we just
Mm-hmm.
kept on going and getting expanded upon. But I think he's always remembered, of course, for being the villain of the Thrawn trilogy. I think that will always be his ultimate public face in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and one of the things that's striking always about Thrawn is uh, very much, well, a different type of leader. Uh, you know, actually, in the zeitgeist, he didn't want to lead with fear.
Mhm.
Always wanted to lead with respect. Um, even caring about the morale of his crew, the interest in art and music. It was very much a new course. As you mentioned, he's not a Palpatine Vader knockoff. It was very much his own thing, his own archetype, and um, it was a fascinating approach to evil. It's a fascinating approach to a villain, um, one that he's harder to cheer against. Of course, in the original Thrawn trilogy, those are primarily Luke, Leia, and Han stories. Um, but one of the things that has been consistent between yeah, I guess I could say one of the things that has been consistent between Thrawn and Legend, Thrawn and canon is that he wants to lead with respect, and that he um, is interested in art. And as again I mentioned, there are differences between Thrawn and Legends and canon. Maybe Joel, if you want to dive in and give us some thoughts on what those might be.
Well, in a weird way, there are and there aren't. It sort of
Yeah.
depends on what you're looking at. If
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at just the paper canon in the books, Tim Zahn has gone on record publicly and said that he writes his Thrawn books to be very Legends friendly. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
small spoilers for Ascendancy, but if you ever read the Outbound Flight book from Legends, this book pretty much recanonizes that. Thrawn's origins, the story of his origins, that's pretty much
Mm-hmm.
still the same of how the Empire found him. Um, Same officers too, more or less the same people. Maybe a little different. Of like, I think Eli Vanto's not a thing, but they put them in there. But more or less,
Yeah.
he's there. Really, it's only the details of from Rebels onward where the differences are in terms of why he's not in the original trilogy. In Legends, there was an actual reason he was on a mission for the Emperor to pacify
Mm-hmm.
the unknown regions, and he just stayed there. And in canon, obviously, he's taken by a bunch of space whales, and he and Ezra are goodness knows where at the time.
Right.
They're MIA. And obviously his post Return of the Jedi story is probably going to differ somewhat as well, it seems. But maybe there'll be some similarities and overarching ideas. But who knows? We haven't seen it yet.